Let's take you to the courts now, where the Pretoria High Court yesterday heard the initial confession statements by two of the accused in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, which implicate Kelly Khumalo as the mastermind who ordered the hit on her then-boyfriend. This was after Judge Ratha Mokgoatlheng ruled on the trial within the trial to determine the admissibility of the statements and confessions by the accused, ruling them as admissible on Thursday. What can we expect next? Let's get some analysis. Legal analyst Melusi Xulu weighing in on this matter. A very good morning to you, Melusi. Thank you so much for your time. The court decided this week that the statements are admissible. How much does this now change the context of the trial within the trial?
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me. Well, how it changes how the matter is going is that, first of all, a ruling has been made on the trial within the trial. Eventually, the judge has decided that the confession statements and the pointing out were made freely and voluntarily. There was no undue influence, and when they made those statements, they were in their sound and sober senses. Now, I would like to point out the fact that he explained clearly that any evidence that is obtained unconstitutionally should not be allowed. That is Section 35, subsection 5 of the Constitution. So he was very clear in that, in his view and in his ruling, there was no unconstitutionality, so to speak. Everything was done clearly. However, my interest is here, Paul. If you heard him clearly, when he started in his ruling, he said that, I think he quoted, one of the cases he quoted was S versus Chocolate, where he said in that case it was stated that even when a confession has been made admissible, it does not mean that the judgment has already been made. Anything can happen during the trial, and it might affect how that confession that has been made admissible is viewed. So he was just saying, yes, it's admissible, but let's see what will happen in the main trial. And I think from yesterday's events, one can already start to see that, you can say this, that statement is made admissible, but what happens in the main trial might give a different version of events, or it might take the matter into a different place.
Also groundbreaking revelations which changed the trajectory of this case, perhaps. It wasn't the first time we heard the name of Kelly Khumalo being mentioned for alleged involvement, but we're learning now that she is alleged to be the mastermind, the person that ordered the hit. How does this now change dynamics within this case? What can we expect as that matter presumably takes center stage at some point?
Well, if I would focus on Kelly Khumalo's involvement, I would like to say, obviously, she's given the right to be presumed innocent like everybody else. And secondly, the state, at a certain point, there was a time where a warrant of arrest was issued and it has to be executed, but it was not against Kelly Khumalo. Thirdly, the important thing is the state must decide whether they're arresting her or not. For obviously, there will be a third docket in that scenario. But the state, if they feel there's not enough evidence according to them, obviously they will not arrest her. But where else have you heard that there's a mastermind and eventually the mastermind is mentioned and it's not arrested? I'll give you an example that is currently developing. In the AKA case, we know that there should be a mastermind, but for now, no mastermind has been mentioned. I don't know if it will be the same thing as it happening in this case, where you do have someone that is presumed to be a mastermind, but there's no willingness to arrest this person, or maybe as the state will say, they don't have evidence. But I'm just surprised that it took how many years? Almost 10 years for us to hear that Kelly Khumalo was also involved, but nothing has been done in almost 10 years to either arrest her or question her. So that is very concerning. But in any case, we are dealing with the 5 accused currently, but it's up to the state what they'll do about Kelly Khumalo, but it is a big elephant in the room.
Yeah, with that big elephant in the room, what are some of the challenges that the state is grappling with ahead of making any sort of move when it comes to Kelly Khumalo?
Well, the most important thing, even with regards to the 5 accused, is that when we're doing a criminal case, there must be proof beyond reasonable doubt that you indeed did commit that particular offense. Now, if I've heard yesterday's confessions, you don't hear Ndanzi or Slia saying specifically that Kelly Khumalo called him to arrange the killing. There's a certain Marco Telezi, forgive me if I get the name wrong, but there's a certain Marco Telezi who I don't think will be called by the state to, obviously has not been arrested as well and has not made a confession. So what we are hearing here is that actually Ndanzi heard that Kelly Khumalo called, but it's not him saying he was called by Kelly Khumalo. So I think that in itself is another challenge. That is why I'm saying the minutes that they had that there's a Kelly Khumalo name involved, I think they should have put in more resources in terms of the investigation. Otherwise, it looks like it's a confession, but based on a hearsay when it comes to Kelly Khumalo. We need a little bit more. That is why when I spoke about Kelly Khumalo, we obviously need to be logical and not be emotional. We need to get evidence that is beyond reasonable doubt that it was Kelly Khumalo who called the hit, not just hearsay.
Very well. Thank you so much, Melusi Xulu, legal analyst, helping us unpack and make sense of some of the proceedings of the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial.